I really wanted to do a video response to this topic on pagan parenting. I have 5 kids. I've got a 12-year-old, an 8-year-old, 2 6-year-olds, boy-girl twins, and my youngest turns 5 on December 1st. So you would think that I'd know a little bit more about it than I actually do, but I've honestly done kind of a crummy job to introducing them to it at a young age. My oldest is more into it. My girls really are the ones more into it. I got 2 girls, 3 boys. The boys are kind of still in their own thing. We have a UU church here, and I've considered going to it. Problem is that my husband works most Sundays, and I'm not exactly crazy about taking all 5 kids to church and getting them all ready in the morning by myself. It's not the most fun thing in the world. What I've started doing is, my husband and I talked about this at length a couple of years ago, and it was around the same time. It was regarding Yule, because it doesn't feel right to do the whole Christmas thing on the secular side. Yeah, the Santa, but it's still the whole Santa thing is like cross-cultural in a way. It's got its Christian things, it's got its little pagan things, because if you go into some of the myths, you'll find that Santa can be linked to specific deities or ideas in other areas. So as far as gift giving, and we set up a tree, and we do the secular American version of Christmas. It's also easier because I live kind of with family. We were more with them, but now we've kind of switched. We're on the same property. But it's a lot easier to just stick with that when you've got relatives and other things going on around that same time. It's a couple of days off. What I do have is some book recommendations. We have this one. It's became a fairly good classic, Circle Round by Starhawk, Diane Baker, and Anne Hill. It's a little bit more goddess-centered, but it has tons of ideas for just the crafts, and it's got stories and songs, and it's a good jumping off place to get the gears rolling. Then there's Pagan Parenting by Kristin Madden. It's just kind of a guideline. It's been years since I've read this. I have a lot of stuff on my to-be-read again list. But they're great ideas. And The Pagan Family by Ceisiwr, Serith. I think I have that right. I found the name on a radio show on YouTube, and I was like, hey, it's going to be on the radio. The host has to say his name right. Ceisiwr, Serith, I think. This one I have not read yet, but I've skimmed through a little bit. But again, they're ideas for family ideas. I'm in a rural area that has a lot of Christians in it. So I've been very hesitant to really get my kids into it, because our school, being a public school, and they don't say where they come from, but you can walk into the office and they've got Bible quotes on the wall. They don't say where they're from, so it's still in that separation of church and state, because they have other quotes up there too. But still. I've been a little nervous about that. And I have my own issues with that, because the truth be told, if you are a Lutheran, easy for me to go there because I went to a Lutheran school when I was in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. You don't have any problems practicing your faith. But I think as pagans, when it's small group centered. Even if you have a coven that's your 13 people or a study group, you've got a little bit of people that you can fall back on. But when you're solitary, you don't have that where church goers all have, well, at least these 40 people will agree with what I say. it's a smaller group, and the pagan groups seem to be fairly volatile anyway. Just throughout the history, you can see where there were different issues that people have had. There was Doreen Valiente, who was in Gardner's Coven and ended up going to, I forget, Cochrane's Coven. And then she ended up leaving that one because that one all imploded. I mean, it's kind of a shaky ground in some ways anyway. So I've been really hesitant to actually get the kids in on too much stuff. What we have started doing is just the kind of seasonal, focusing on the wheel of the year ideas. As my husband put it when we talked about it, well, at Yule we celebrate the rebirth of the sun. Because that's something, too, that if the kids repeat and they happen to be talking to a really Christian friend, they're most likely going to think that if that's the way the comment stays, they're going to think, oh, well, you're thinking of the birth of the Son of God. So that, it works, more or less. Because you can't avoid all the problems with everybody, because if you try to please everybody, you're going to fail. But just the ideas like Halloween is a fairly easy one. You can bring in the ancestors. It's kind of out there anyway in the secular side, the carving of pumpkins. That's really the easiest jumping off point is with Samhain. The littler, I say littler because it's big to me, but like February 2nd for Imbolc. Love how these words have the multiple pronunciations. It's easier to have that one be just the household because there's nothing else really going on. Groundhog's Day. That's it. If your state's, I think some other areas in the world might have something similar to Groundhog's Day, but that's all we've really got for that. But the solstices, the equinoxes, just the changing seasons. And introduce the different ideas of changing seasons with your kids. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm taking some ideas from the various books. Because right now, the idea of going to the Unitarian Universalist Church every Sunday is really scary. And it has been for some time, but now the kids are getting a little bit older and I'm starting to think about some of the ideas in reality. Because I know, for me, my great-grandparents took me to the Unitarian Universalist Church when I was like 4, 5. And then going to a Lutheran private school, that's kind of what ended that. But it formed a huge part of my religious beliefs. And that's what also ended me leaving, I ended up leaving the private school because my mom left it up to me as my choice. So we ended up leaving the school, leaving that Lutheran church, and just kind of went on our own way. And then when I was about 12 is when I first discovered Wicca and witchcraft. And again, my mom was open to it. She actually ended up finding her path based on that because she wanted to see what I was into and make sure it wasn't what they thought it was. That started with Pocahontas and the craft. Because Pocahontas was that whole, every rock and tree and creature has a spirit and a name, and I really liked that idea. And then with the craft, they had the rocks, the moon, the trees, it's everything. So, but I'm getting up to my limit here. I hope that helps. Video responses, kind of one of the reasons I joined in, so talk to you later.